Hey Al, how's it going? Hope everyone's well on this Monday morning. A couple things, quick things, hopefully this morning. I've adopted a strategy of differentiating between the kinds of videos that I post on YouTube, many of which are talks and thoughts and lectures and discussions of things having to do with the history of music theory and the history of musical composition and compositional technique in general, especially as I practice it, and other people who I admire have practiced it, and videos of a more general nature, sometimes just me rambling on about things that aren't necessarily terribly musical, just sort of personal thoughts, occasional just silly things that I think of or think are funny and put down because, after all, hell beats the hell out of working. And I'm going to differentiate between those two things: the more stuffy music professor things, and the more general sort of conversational, day-to-day type stuff. And the day-to-day type, or the more general, less formal parts of my YouTube repertoire shall hitherto be, for convenience of the audience, its title will begin with RANT, rant, dash. So just so people know that because a couple of people have said, where we turn on your latest video and we're not sure what it is, and like 10 minutes into it we realize it's basically technical musical type things, and it's not really something that we ourselves particularly are interested in. So just as a convenience for people who are interested in sort of the general day-to-day stuff of the inner workings of my skull, as opposed to the more academic, theoretical, musical, historical kinds of things, it'll be a better way for people to differentiate between those two things. The other thing I just wanted to bring up today and lift up to you, in case you didn't know this, and a lot of people will not know that this ever existed, but something called, it's one of the very, very first, not necessarily the first, but one of the first important to me instances of distance education. And this was something that I was aware of when I was a kid. It was a program on CTV television, which I could tune into in Sheffield Mills, Nova Scotia, and it was called the University of the Air. University of the Air, and what it was basically was, I think it was like from 1966 to the early 80s. Basically what they were a series of college-level lectures that were broadcast every morning or at least where I was, at about 8 o'clock in the morning. And there were some really, some various things. They'd have various college professors in, and those college professors would give a talk on something. And which I think was, I was 8 at the time when it first started. And it was most, if not all of it, was way over my head at the time, but it looked interesting. This looked engaging, and that's something that I feel is something of a precedent for the kinds of things that I'm at least trying to do with what little I know about composition and theory and history of music theory, etc., is to present basically, what I know and what I've read about, what I've thought about, in lecture form, basically free to anybody who has access to the internet. And that's basically what University of the Air was back in the mid to late 60s when it came out. It's a way for, say, like, for example, at the time. Someone staying home with the kids. Were taking care of children, but the children were old enough to more or less occupy their own time. And it was a chance for these people who were at-home caregivers to broaden their minds a little bit intellectually on a college level. And I think was a marvelous precedent in both world history and Canadian history, particularly. And that's kind of what a model for what I try to do in my own way, with things that I know, have learned, think about, etc., etc. And so I just wanted to point that out. I think it's possible to actually go and find some University of the Air lectures on the web. Not sure if any of them are on YouTube per se. But I think they can be found, and it might not be a bad idea for people who are interested to go and try to find those and sort of get a sense of the kinds of things that CTV was broadcasting for at least close on, if not more than 20 years. So anyway, so those are two things that general formatting information for my videos heretofore and in the future, as well as just to sort of to remember and to lift up and to appreciate and to suggest to people that they might check out University of the Air because it was one way for people who were at home to engage intellectually on a college level. In much the same way that these days, that presentations of the kind that I give and try to do a good job on, for me, it's a chance to lecture to people, even though I'm not necessarily teaching at a college at the moment. Yeah, I can still give lectures. Sorry, a little bit of cynicism there, but it was necessary. Okay. Anyway, so that's it for now. Hope you're all well. Have a good day, etc., etc. And I will talk with you soon. Probably the next thing I'll do, and I'll warn my theory folks. Probably the next couple things I'll do is have to do with some stuff with some Hindemith and some Prokofiev and the importance of the golden mean in Russian music theory around the time of when Prokofiev was active as a composer. Anyway, so if that doesn't snap your eyelids shut, maybe you'd like to join me for that. If not, that's also fine. All right, more stuff from you-know-who. Stuff. There's that word again.